Welcome to the Connected Growth Coaching Podcast, where we support women to rediscover who they are so they can thrive in all parts of their lives. Your hosts, Jen Heilman and Amanda Kingsley, share with you unique life coaching resources centered around the power of the mind and the ancient practice of feng shui. All right, pumped up.
Woohoo! Got our meridians pumped up.
I know. We learned some new tricks. We expanded on our clapping. If any of you listeners have been watching us, you know that on our video, which unfortunately you can't see us in these podcasts, but in our videos we're always clapping, and we just discovered this amazing video about like the benefits of clapping, so we upped the game a little. This week we are on week 2 of moving through Bagua, which is really awesome. As soon as we sent last week out, I was like, this is so good. It's like foundation for everybody. Right. So important. So this week we are talking about love and relationships.
This is a favorite. Some of the other areas people are like, man, why do I want to talk about that? But
I do want to talk about inner wisdom.
Right. Come on. Where's that going to go?
All right. So my first question to you, Jen, is what's the most important thing to know about this area?
About this area. So I would say it's a level of receptivity. And what I mean about that is, how do you receive, right? How do you receive love? How do you receive love in your relationships? How do you allow yourself to receive love, from yourself, self-love, that kind of thing? It's all about observing that receptivity. And so, or receiving that love, right? So your level of receptivity. One of the most obvious things that is not necessarily feng shui, but feng shui your life kind of thing, is how do you receive compliments, right? So when someone says, gosh, you look great today, do you say, yeah,
I didn't have time to do my hair.
Right, exactly. You make some kind of self-deprecating remark,
right.
Or this, I love your outfit, and you say, oh, this whole thing.
Oh, it was $7.99.
Right, I know, I did that the other day. Somebody commented me on my scarf, and I was like, oh, it was 60% off. And I'm like, why did I say that?
I know.
Like, why, right? Like, somehow I have to justify it. So anyways, Amanda, said, your hair looks great today. Or it's that you said, I love your hair curly, right? Yeah. It's just not something that I usually allow myself. And I was like, thank you, and even though I wasn't maybe necessarily completely owning it on the inside, I'm owning it on the outside. And so that's starting to allow me to own it on the inside. Yeah, right.
It takes practice. It takes discomfort.
It does, right? I could have deflected and say, oh, I don't usually wear it this way, which was what I started to just say just now. Yes, I don't usually wear it, this way because it's, unruly and I don't feel that comfortable in it, Or I could just say thank you and own it and maybe wear it curly again some other day,
I was actually really proud of her in that moment because I was like, oh, she totally owned that.
Nice. Awesome. Yeah. So the love area, we can see that behavior within our space, if you are putting up walls, if in the form of clutter or, piling things up, or maybe it's, that area is completely missing from your house. I always love to use this example in my own house. My love area is predominantly a mechanical room for our pool.
Sexy.
Yeah, right? Sexy. So, it's cold, it's mechanical, it's dark, it's closed off. And though there's not a whole lot I can do about that, I can't go out there and add plants. I could add plants to my mechanical room and all that kind of stuff, I guess.
They might not live so well in the dark.
Right. It's not super realistic. So what I can do is keep it swept. I can clap it out, you know, and keep the energy moving. I have a couple of crystals hanging in the very
tell
small
people
window.
What you mean when you say clap it out.
Okay, so when I say clap it out, basically you go into the space that feels stuck, right? Or in this case, it's not feeling very receptive. There's, walls all around it and it's dark. And so you want to get the energy moving. And so a great way to get the energy moving is to go into the space and clap out the corners. And so what you do is you can do it any way you want, whatever feels good to you. But I like to start low and end high. And so I start with a low clap, down around my knees, and then I clap again around my waist, and then I clap again above my head. And as I clap, and I will do that several times, I'll go through those motions several times, each time raising it up.
Yeah.
And each time I clap, when I first start, it's a very low, thuddy, kind of dull clap. Like you can actually hear the energy that is in that room being very, very low and stuck. And so as you clap up, you're raising that energy up, and you're also getting the energy moving. And so as you start to clap it out more and more, it gets crisper. So the claps actually get crisper. And so I have people listen for that crispness. And when you reach that crispness, then you know that the energy is moving again. And I know that sounds really woo-woo and it sounds like crazy, but go try it because it's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you clap out, all of the corners of that space. You can do your whole room, your whole house.
And just to be clear, this is not specific to love and relationships.
No, right.
She mentioned it, and I think it's a really important feng shui tool. So apply this anywhere. This is not specific to this area of the
right.
Bagua map.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think one of the main reasons you were bringing it up is because it's, what do you do with a mechanical room, right?
Right.
One of the only things you can do is just to keep the energy moving.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of our clients, Jen, of course, for you have way more feng shui clients in your history, but a lot of them are like, oh, never mind. Like, I'm doomed. That's
right.
my bathroom, or I'm doomed. That's where I keep my trash, or I'm doomed. Like,
right.
That's my husband's hoarder space. Like, and so whatever the thing is, like, whether it can be a mechanical room in your love area.
Right.
And there's tools. So that's so important to understand.
So true. Yeah.
Oh, actually, that brings me to another important point, which a podcast listener asked me last week. What do I do if this area of my house is missing? And her love area actually was missing. So, can you just speak to that at some point quickly in this? I mean, just go for it right now.
Yeah, totally.
And then we'll get back on track to love.
Right. To love. So any area that's missing from your house, you can set the Bagua up over an individual room, like a room that you spend a lot of time with. The biggest area that I recommend is the bedroom, right? So it's generally the easiest room to do that with. And you may notice if the love area is missing from the overall Bagua map of your home, that it might be missing from the love area of your bedroom, right? And
start to notice more places,
right? And so again, it's missing from the living room or the kitchen or wherever you spend, or your office, wherever you spend the most time in, or if it's not missing in those areas, there's something going on in that area that's like very, raise your eyebrows, kind of like, oh, there it is again and again. So laying it out over a particular room. So instead of using the front door, which would be, for the whole house, you use the door to the room as the front door, and you lay it out. So the love area would be in the far right corner of the room of your bedroom.
It's the most used door. So like my bedroom has 3 doors.
It's crazy.
I live in a very small house, by the way, but my bedroom has 3 doors. So you use the door that you enter the most.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so you find the love area of a particular room, and that's where you can enhance it. And that's where you can do some of the enhancements that we're about to talk about specifically for the love area. So
let's go back to some more important things about this area. So you've mentioned like your ability to receive. And so there's this self-love piece to that. And then there's also it's related to your relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my understanding is that it's not just like your sexy, spicy relationships, it's all relationships. So anytime you're in a relationship with the world or another human being?
Yeah, basically.
Would you say?
Yeah. I mean, it could be coworkers, you know, it could be business partners. It could be, you know, one of the primary relationships is your relationship with your mother, because this is the mother area. So, or female siblings. So that this is one of those areas that, if you're struggling in that relationship, you can do some work in this area to help open up that relationship.
Yeah. And I like to say, just always set an intention. So if it's the relationship with your mother that you're trying to move some energy around, just be like, I'm tidying up my love area in the highest good of my relationship with my mother.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
And then the next day you can tidy it up in the highest good of your relationship with your partner.
Yeah. I'm glad that we're bringing this up right now, because it's right before the holidays. Right. And so this is a huge thing. And it's not just mothers, it's mother-in-laws, you know, and stepmothers and all of those mother relationships. And so, you know, it's a time where all of our tension starts to eke out, you know, and we start to get anxious about the holidays and what that might bring. And if you have a particular troublesome relationship in that realm, you can use your love area to set that intention for things to go smoothly, particularly for that day, you know, for the holidays, or, you know, or you can do it all year round, but particularly it seems as if, you know, the holidays bring out that stress and that tension, which brings out people's, you know, worst behaviors. And so in order to make things go smoothly, you can, you know, use the love area to set that intention. Yeah. And I had done that a couple of years ago, and people really responded. It was pretty amazing. The responses, they were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. It worked," you know, like, so it really is powerful stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've talked a little bit about how how this love area is related to us and like our internal process, and then our ability to receive, and then like to then give, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like this communication of like giving and receiving.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And then we've talked a little bit about how this area reflects in the outer world. So like, you know, maybe in your career or your relationship with your kids' school teachers or like whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, ultimately it comes back to you, right? Like it, you know, we want to put the responsibility on our mother-in-law to behave herself, but it's also our energy, right? It's our energy and the energy that we're setting for the intention, so that, you know, we don't push the mother-in-law's buttons, you know, because we're, you know, being, you know, we're setting ourselves up to be less tense ourselves.
Right.
But it's, so I want to touch on the giving part of that too. Right?
Yeah, please.
Because, you know, a lot of times we, how you do one thing is how you do everything. Right. And so, if we're not in the mode of receiving, then we're also not necessarily openly giving either, right? We're kind of closed down in all departments there. You know, we may feel like we're over giving if we're not receiving, but the thing is that what we're giving is not. Yeah.
So if you're one of those people who's super stressed out and you're like, I'm always giving, and nobody's ever helping me, like, yes, some of the things you're doing are probably helpful, but like that giving doesn't have the same quality that it could if you were open to receiving and filling your own cup all the time.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And what you're giving is probably what you're getting back, right?
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Oof, that resonated pretty deep right there. Right. Yeah. So the energy you're putting out, that energy that you are putting out there and giving is coming back to you in the way of not really being very helpful, right? So you're not feeling like you're getting the help that you need, or you're receiving the things that you need, because the quality of what you're putting out there is not what, you know. what you
Yeah.
want
And
to get
that's
back.
how, when you get into that life coaching work of like how your brain works and how your thoughts work and how they create your results, you can really start to see
absolutely
exactly how what you're giving is what you're getting back in return. It's like ding, ding, ding,
yeah,
ding, ding.
right.
And we have to do it every single day. We have to show up and see how our brains are working in that way. But,
and that is magical work.
Super
for sure.
important.
Yes. Exactly.
Okay. So what are some of the big time do's and don'ts in this area?
Do's and don'ts. Okay, so you know me, I always love to refer to color because it's always the easiest thing to implement. But pink, just like purple, is not necessarily something that pink is the color for love, right? And so it can be a little tough to bring pink into your decor if that's not something that you normally do. Some people have love corners that are like couches with pink fluffy pillows. I mean, that would be ideal, but it's not really very realistic. And so you can add the color, like I am looking at Amanda's kitchen, and she could put pink on the inside of her kitchen cabinets, like even.
Ooh, that makes me want to put like little pink hearts on the door when you open the cabinet. Like, yummy.
Yeah.
Totally doing that.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And just like softening it that way. And so they're just little reminders of, what you can do, how you want to feel in that space. Right. So how do you want to feel in that space? And you try to bring that in, and it
doesn't always have to be beautiful, because, I remember one time I went into my bedroom and worked in the love area, and I had all these blankets that needed storage, and my house is like a storage nightmare. So I used a pink like tote, like, plastic tote, and I put it in the corner of the love area and put all the extra blankets in there, and like magic happened.
Really?
I was like, it's like this ugly plastic tote, but it was like hot pink, and it was like, again, it is woo, but it's magic.
Right.
And like, who the heck cares?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's got to feel good to you.
So of course, if it is beautiful and like you can structure it in a way that's like very eye pleasing and decorative, like way better. But it might just be a pink tote to start, or pink
scarf, or pink
so.
construction paper, whatever you have, to use. It's just, that's why I always refer to color, because, you probably have, even like a pink book, that like has a book cover, or something that like goes in that area, something along those lines. But you want to make sure that you're softening the area somehow. Fabrics are great that way. Soft pillows, blankets. You want to put like photographs of times of, that reflect the feelings of love that you're, so it has to be a photograph. I always caution people about photographs, because photographs could be like, you could have the best photo ever and you guys all look amazing, but like it was the most horrendous situation to get it
to go.
Yeah. Everybody was arguing, and like, it was just the worst thing ever. And so make sure that the energy of the photo is there as well. And so when you look at the photo, you're not just seeing your smiling faces, you're actually seeing the joy and the love that's in the photo and the experience. So those are good things to put in there. Think about it, as like, this is your duality.
Yeah.
Your duality area. So like coupling things up. So if you have a place where you could put candles, put two candles together, or pink candles, red candles, whatever candles you want to do. Candles are great for this area. Lighting that flame, lighting that passion. If you want to spice things up in your relationship, the color red is really great, but be careful that you don't add too much red, because it can
it's a little fiery.
It gets fiery, it gets argumentative. So maybe you spice things up for a little while, but then you kind of take some of the red out and soften it with the pink, just like being,
or even just choosing your tone of red. I mean, there's tones of red that are much more like fire engine, and then there's tones of red that are like
a little more
soothing. A little softer.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But when you make these changes, the most important thing I like to recommend is that you write it down. Write it down somewhere, the change that you made.
I used to keep a little feng shui journal.
Right? And then because you're going to be setting an intention about what it is that you're trying to call in by doing the work, right? So maybe it is, softening the relationship with your partner, or softening the relationship with your mother-in-law, know, or, sparking some passion, or whatever the intention is. Write it down, because I think that what happens is that we forget that we set that intention, that we did the work. And then when it comes in, we forget, and we forget how powerful we are. And, we just kind of let it slip.
And we forget to receive that validation that what we do matters.
Exactly.
And what, the intention we set matters.
Right. That's why we always say celebrate your wins, right?
Yes.
Because it's just so important to recognize the positive things, and the power that you've created in your life.
Yeah.
It may feel small, but it's really big.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm really glad you brought up that thing about twos, because I think, sometimes that single powerful objects in this area can be really intense. Like, whatever it is, it's like you have this single beautiful, like Jen saying candle, like this beautiful candle holder, and it's like standing there in all its strength by itself.
Right.
You're like, oh, that's awesome. Like, maybe that's working wonders for self-love, but maybe not working the same wonders you want in that relationship kind of stuff.
Exactly. And also the relationship with yourself too, right? Like,
that's true.
Like you're standing there being stoic, instead of softening and receiving the love and giving the love in a way that, feels good. I mean, so many times I have walked into people's homes and went into their love area and seen, dramatic, portraits of them by themselves, or a single woman, longingly looking off into the distance, that sort of thing. I think of one client who had above her bed, her, shared bed with her partner, had a picture of a single rocking chair, and it was kind of a lonely scene. And
that is super lonely.
And her, it just like evokes all these emotions of like sitting on the porch and, being by yourself and longing for that person to come home. And ironically, her, there's nothing ironic in feng shui, but her husband traveled all the time, and he was gone a lot. And so it happened to fall in the house. I mean, this is going to get a little bit too much information, in their helpful people in travel area. So she changed that to a map of all of the places that she wanted to travel with her husband and where they'd been, cool. So like changing that vibration. Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So you gave us tons of great information and tips. If listeners were like, I can't do all that, I can only do one thing, what would it be? What would you say? If they had to go back home and decide that either in their bedroom or their entire home, they were going to make one change, what would it be? I would
say candles come to mind. 2 candles together, lighting the candles, and setting the intention for that specific relationship.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a little break. Come on back.
Alrighty.
Let's face it, no two lives are the same, and there are no one-size-fits-all tips and tricks. We love connecting with you on the podcast, but remember that if you want game-changing results, one-on-one coaching is where it's at. You can access our programs at connectedgrowthcoaching.com, and we will walk you through the unique circumstances that arise in your life and your home. All right. I almost said like feeling a little warm, feeling a little yummy, but actually my kitchen is freezing cold. I feel warm in my relationship with the love area and all this new information, but I'm going to go get a blanket when we're done with this podcast.
Frost on the ground.
What the heck?
Defrosting the windshield. We're in it.
Yeah. So we're going to make some tea and warm ourselves up after this. So the things that I would encourage you to think about from the inside perspective, like what's the journaling you can do around this? What's the deeper thinking you can do around your love area? Because when you work on the inside and the outside at the same time, everything just sticks really differently. So I always encourage you to get out a journal or a pen and paper. It can be a napkin at the coffee shop, and you can toss it away after. But writing this stuff out, so powerful. So I would just take some notes. You can even like voice record into your phone and then listen to it later, like whatever your thing is. Think about the places where you are comfortable receiving, just like, and celebrate your win style. Like, where are you comfortable receiving? Maybe for some people it's from their children, right? Like, I'm really good at receiving love from my children, but I'm not so good at receiving love from my partner. And yes, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So when you up that ability to receive love from your partner or your, boss,
right? Yeah.
It will also improve with your children, but at least start like even more than you imagined, right? It opens new avenues that you hadn't imagined. But just start by noticing, where in my life do I feel safe enough, comfortable enough, soft enough to receive?
Right.
And what does that feel like in my body? Like, what's the difference between when I receive a hug from my child and feel warm and fuzzy, and when I receive a compliment from my friend and like feel like I have to defend how much my sweater cost?
Right. Right.
What does it feel like in your body? So just kind of notice that you can like put yourself in that place, or just start being more aware in your life. And then on the other hand, notice where you're resistant, right? So where are you tensing up, and where are you resisting that reception of compliments or gifts, or even just like nature, right? Like how are you receiving the gifts that nature's always giving us? Is it only when the sun's shining? Or is it also like on a cool fall day, are there ways that you're receiving and taking the gifts that nature's always giving us, even when it's not sparkly, sunny, picture perfect, right? So just start noticing, like, where are you comfortable and where are you resistant? And how can you just soften? Like, where are the places you can soften? How can you notice a little more? Like, it's a little cloudy here today, but we still have all that sparkly color on and it's drifting, but it's almost like there's this time of year in New England where you pass peak foliage, but you're still appreciating those few leaves that are holding on. You're like, oh, there's yellow in the distance.
Right. And I like this time of year for the crispness of the air. It's like a dry, crisp air. And so like we have a little dog, and I let her out in the morning, and every morning, no matter what the temperature is, I open the door and I stick my head out and I breathe in that crisp air, it's just so good. So especially this time of year, where you're not necessarily wanting to linger outside that much, but just feels great first thing in the morning to suck in that fresh
breathe it
air.
In, receive it, right? And then like this time of year also, as the leaves start falling, we see differently, right? We're like, true. I can see the brook now. I can see the pond back there.
Right.
I can see my neighbor's house.
I know. I was noticing that this morning.
It changes your perspective, which is always important. So that would be the first thing I would suggest you consider thinking about. And then the next thing would be I love lists. I'm very much a like bullet point journaler versus like a write paragraphs journaler. So I always jump to like make a list. So you can write paragraphs if you're not a list person, but make a list of 5 things that you love about yourself. And it may be like that you laugh at, times that feel really good, or it may be that you are always willing to help other people, or that you think your feet are really cute. Like, it doesn't matter.
I love your examples.
Like, it really, just find those things.
Right.
Because there are things that you love about yourself, whether they're physical or personality or willingness to jump in or see your dark side, whatever it is. So make that list and keep going, but at least get 5 down on the paper, and then just, again, celebrate those things. And then 5 ways that you show up really well in relationships, right? Like, how do I show up well in relationships? I'm a good listener. What are the things, and you pick the relationships where you show up well in first, and then notice, right? Like, I'm very flexible, right? That can either be a good thing or a bad thing, but we're like, find the ways that showing up in relationships, like, I always take a minute to breathe after I hear something that I don't love so much, Right. So how are you showing up in relationship with other people, not just to yourself, but with other people that you do well? Like, where are you doing it right?
I love that you're starting with something that's a little bit, more accessible, right? With the people that you already are getting along with, right?
So maybe it is your kids, or your partner of 20 years, or maybe it is your mother.
Right.
Some of us have great relationships.
Right, exactly. A lot of us do. And so, so having the ability to start there, but then what it does is it expands, and as you grow, you're able to see the positive things in the relationships that you struggle with, right? You're able to see the positiveness in the person that maybe causes you strife right now, and so that's where you're heading with this work, is that you're starting at this place that feels a little easier and a little more accessible. And as you grow and you learn more about yourself, you're able to then start to see, your mother-in-law in a new light.
Right. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can actually happen the opposite way. Like, for instance, sometimes we have an ability to see perspective in strangers or acquaintances much better than we can. So for instance, you're at a coffee shop and somebody's really rude and like cutting in line or talking really loud or something. And sometimes with a stranger, we can be like, wow, they must be having a hard day. Or I wonder where that behavior is coming from. Whereas with our partner, we're like, refuse to see that perspective. We're like, no, you should act this way.
Right. Don't do that. You're embarrassing me.
So it's really important to notice where are you able to do it well and where are you not. And it flip-flops. But once how you do one thing is how you do everything. It'd be really fun to like calculate how many times we say that in the course of 100 podcasts.
Maybe one of our people will start.
Maybe we should have a
game
checklist
about it.
But
let us know when we reach 100 and we'll give you a prize.
So if you can notice how you're a really good listener with your children, you can notice and spread that into other places in your life. Like, why am I a good listener with my children? Like, what do I actually do? I take a deep breath. I remember where they're at in their development. And because we're not children, adults are all at different stages of their development too, right?
Such a good insight.
So then you're like, okay, well, what if I took a deep breath and noticed where my boss was in his development of growing his business, right? Like, would that change things? Like, maybe I can use that same tool with other people. So.
Wow.
All right.
That was really good.
That's it for today.
I love that we both learned from each other on the podcast.
So good. I used to have it with Tara and I would be like, whoa. So next week we will move into another area of the Bagua. I forget if we're going to cover health as one of them, but the next 8 or 9 episodes, for the rest of the year, we're going to go through 2018 talking about really foundational stuff around the Bagua map. So see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
As always, thanks for listening. If you learned something today that can help the people in your circle, please help us get the word out by sharing. When you leave us a rating and review on iTunes, it not only warms our hearts, but it helps people find us. We are eternally grateful for your support, and we're looking forward to connecting with you next week. Until then, you can find the show notes at www.connectedgrowthcoaching.com. You can grab your journal and then get your shui on.